Hey there folks, welcome you all to yet another vlog of mine. It is Saturday the 8th of June 2024 people at 2:20 p.m. and we are on the cusp, the eve people, of an Xbox showcase that I think everybody is really looking forward to. If they can't nail this one, they've got serious problems, because at the moment PlayStation don't have much in the bag for this year. So if Microsoft can really bring this one home, then they're an absolute winner, in my opinion. And everything at the moment is shouting that a lot of their games are on the brink of being ready for launch. So I thought this vlog would be a good idea just to do my well, they're not really predictions. I've probably called it that on the thumbnail or the title of the video, but they're really things that we kind of know are going to be there, and then there's some kind of wish list stuff that I'm predicting might be there. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I just kind of off the top of my head thought, right, what do we know about, what have we not heard from in a while, that sort of thing. So I'm just going to run through a list of those. Like all of these things, people, if you've switched on and you want to get to the nitty-gritties of a particular subject or that you've clicked on the thumbnail for, I will, as always, attempt to get the time codes in for you so you can jump straight to the bit that you are really interested in. I will, as always in these things, have a little bit of a spraff about the channel just before we get going and just update you on me, people. And Maxi boy, who's just sat right down here, Max the puppy, people, the border terrier, who is stolen my heart now, people. I don't know what I would do without him. Like when I want to leave the house now, I actually miss him almost immediately when I'm out. He's still got the ability to wind me up from time to time, but but he is I could not have asked for a better puppy. Although there's not much puppy in him now. He's coming up for 7 months, and that's as big as they get. And he's only a little dog, really. He's just recently moved from an extra small collar into the small collar, which is now loosened up a little bit. So he's not going to be a big dog at all, which is what I wanted. I wanted a little dog that could jump up on the couch and snuggle up and all that sort of good stuff, people. So he's just down here. He might make an appearance through the video. You never know, people. Anyway, so we're just going to do a quick update on the channel, and then we'll crack straight into this list of predictions that I've got for tomorrow's Xbox showcase. This is the showcase for the 9th of June. 2024. It is happening at 6 p.m. BST. That's British Summer Time here. So you can try and work that out, or Google it, people, if you're not sure what that is in your time zone, people. There's so many bloody time zones in the world. There's so many just in America. I think does America have the most time zones? Probably not. It's not the biggest landmass, is it? I think Russia might have the biggest landmass. But anyway, there's loads of time zones, people. So it's 6 p.m. BST in this country, the United Kingdom, people, and I will be watching it, unlike the Sony one, which was on at, I think, 11 o'clock at night, and I couldn't I just didn't have it in me on a school night to sit and watch that late at night. And as it happened, there wasn't a huge amount came out of it that was super exciting anyway. So I think Sony have now run out of steam a little bit. They've kind of hit the tail end of all their big ones, really. So it's going to be interesting to see just what comes out of, for example, God of War. I think that was always going to be a two-parter, so I don't know if there'll be a 3. So what are they going to do next, and what's Horizon team going to do next? Is there going to be 3 of those? I mean, there's an awful lot. Like, usually Sony have something that's going to be happening coming up pretty soon, and I can't think of anything major off the top of my head. Obviously, we just got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or whatever it's called, the second one, 7 Part 2 remake, which is a massive game in itself, but that's technically not a Sony studio, it's just an exclusive. But yeah, so they don't really have much in the way of things coming up that I'm aware of anyway, for this year. So if Microsoft, they really need to bring this one home, people. But anyway, there wasn't enough that came out of that state of play recently, and it came out of the blue anyway. I think we only knew the day before that it was happening, but there wasn't really that much to it. I mean, you shouldn't really have a state of play to say that, what game was it now? They had basically the big thing that came out of it was that there was a game hitting PC. It's like, well, you don't have a state of play for your PlayStation people that's telling people how to get excited for a PC version of a game. That the people that watch state of plays are PlayStation players, not PC players. I mean, I get that you got to punt it somehow, but I mean, don't make that your big thing in a state of play. I mean, the last thing we're interested in is games going over to PC. But anyway. Well, there you are. We will get to it all, people. So before we get going, channel-wise, it's been a bit... there was a bit of a gap there. I was doing some Fallout 4... well, a new gen update version of it, which is playing superbly and beautifully, and I was really enjoying that. I was also playing Dragon's Dogma 2 with its latest, its first update, which made it a lot more playable and easier on the eye. There was a bit of a 2-week gap where I just didn't do any gaming, and then I jumped back into Dragon's Dogma. I jumped back into some Fallout 4, and then I've just this week been doing a lump of Dragon's Dogma 2 again, so just to keep both camps happy if you weren't interested in one or you were only interested in one or the other. So they still seem to be, well, the first one I put up for Dragon's Dogma 2 seemed to be relatively popular, and then it sort of tailed off a little bit, but I suspect people are just catching up. They are quite long videos. In fact, the last one that I've posted up today, in fact it might be live right now as we speak, ended up being about an hour and 40 minutes long because I just couldn't find a suitable place to end it. Things kept happening and happening and happening, so it turned into an epic episode, which was great. I mean, I was thoroughly enjoying it. So I've got every intention of doing a lot more, certainly of Dragon's Dogma 2 and probably more of Fallout 4, because I was really enjoying both of them. I've also just finished watching the Fallout TV show and thoroughly enjoyed that as well. I thought it was superb, and there is definitely a season 2 of that coming. If you haven't watched it, it is on Amazon Prime Video, people. It's not bad Prime, because it's only about $6.99 or something. If you can get, because you don't have to get full Prime, you can just get the $6.99 one that is just for video and music or whatever. I think it is Prime Video. Prime Video, I think you can get it for $5.99 or $6.99 by itself, so it's not too bad. If you compare that to bloody Netflix, which is like, 12 to 15 quid now, it's just insanity. I think it might even be more than that if you want it ad-free. So anyway, thoroughly enjoyed that. Thought it was really, really good. There was some bits in it at the beginning, the first couple of episodes, I just thought there was some silliness going on it didn't need. I don't mind, I love it when dark has humour in it, but there was just silly bits I thought, I didn't really need that. And it kind of got lesser as the 2 episodes went on, and then it kind of found its groove. So yeah, I mean, I like a bit of silliness, but it just felt, I can't even remember what was bugging me at first, but once it got into its flow, I was really, really enjoying it. So yeah, looking forward to more of that coming. But that, of course, made me want to play more Fallout 4. Funnily enough, when I finished Fallout, I was on Prime, and I was looking through what other TV shows were there, and there was like 8 seasons of a series called Vikings, which I've never watched. I think I've seen it pop up on things before, but I've never actually watched it. So I thought, oh, fuck it, I'll just put it on and see what it's like. And I watched about, I think, 3 or 4 episodes, and I thought it was really good. I don't know if I've got 8 seasons of Vikings in me, but what I did find was that it was making me want to play Valhalla. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I only ever played it to the point where you go to England, and then just the minute the boat arrived on the English shore, I never went any further than that. So it was kind of giving me a buzz to go and revisit that, but I think I uninstalled it. I did uninstall it, and I've got a disc copy, and when I put my disc copy in, it takes it about 2 days to install it. Because it was such a wreck when they launched that game that the update for it is literally like downloading about 150 gig of stuff. I mean, it's just insanity. So I think I'll leave it. I've got too much to be getting on with anyway. But it was like, there was a lot I liked about that game. It was just a shame that it was a technical disaster on the Series X when it came out. But it is a lot better to play now. It's still not perfect, but I noticed when I got to England, the screen tearing suddenly started coming back, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, It's probably one of those games, like, on the next gen of Xbox and the next gen of PlayStation, it'll play super smooth, like, you won't see a hint of screen tearing in it. So it's got to that point now, though, where if you get a game for the current gen, it's never going to play as smoothly as you want it to, but when you get, 10 years later, when you play it on the gen after, it'll play beautifully at, gazillion FPS and 58k. Flagging's up to you all, people. Now, because this is on tomorrow, this showcase, I wanted to get this up as early as possible tonight, because it's Saturday, obviously, and this thing's on Sunday night. So I wanted to give people enough opportunity to see what my predictions and things I wanted to chat about were. And for that reason, I've started recording this at, well, as I said earlier, 2:20 in the afternoon. And that is breaking every curfew to do with my... to do with drinks, people. Anyone that watches the channel knows I always have a cut-off point. Like, no beers before 5 is usually my sort of go-to thing. But in the summertime, kind of bring it down a little bit so the sun's out, you sit out and have a few beers. But I generally don't do lunchtime drinks, or unless it's a wedding or something. But anyway, I'm breaking my curfew rules today because it was so early, and I thought I'll not have a flag and I'll just have a water. But I don't know, the sun was shining, the weather is sweet, man, and I just fancied one. So here we are, my first flagon of the day. To be fair, when I do this, the flagon takes me about 2 hours to drink anyway, because I record this, I'm not going to be drinking it much. And then when I finish, I'm editing it all together to try and put some video behind me chatting and stuff like that, footage. So it tends to be the first beer or two that I have tend to last for bloody ages. So anyway, bit early, but I thought, feck it, people. And I've been off this week on holiday. Whoop, whoop. I've got to use up all my annual leave, otherwise I lose it. I've got to use it before the end of July. So I've got another 2 weeks to take after this somewhere between now and the end of July. And I've also already booked off the day off after each Scotland game in the Euros. In case I won't have a beer. But I didn't need to do it for the first one because that's next Friday night. Kicks off the Euros, Scotland against Germany. Yeah. Tartan Army. And so I didn't need to book anything off for that because I'm off on a Saturday anyway. But the next two games, I think one of them's on a Sunday and one of them's on a Wednesday or something like that. I can't remember. But the next day was a school night, as it were. So, yeah, so I've taken 2 days there. I've still got 12 days to use, which is 2 weeks and 2 days, effectively. So, yeah, so still got some time to enjoy and take off. So there'll be plenty of recording going on in those 2 weeks when I decide to take them. And there you are. That is it. That's where I've been for the channel, people. I'll see what I can do with the lighting on this video, by the way. Not that you see much of me if I'm slimmed down to the corner and you've got footage behind me and stuff. But the sun, once the sun comes out, it's quite hard to get good lighting in this room because obviously the sun's coming from behind, it's coming from there. I've got every light in the room on that I can. I think what I need is, if I was going to do this more professionally, I need a big sort of lamp thing that will shine right on me. But anyway, people, I'm 103. You don't need to see my face, do you? I think dim lighting is my best friend really at the moment as time's going on. Anyway, should we get into it, people? Should we get into my predictions for the Xbox Showcase for June the 9th, 2024? Flagging's up to you all. I'd share it with you, people, if I could. Oh, that is ice cold, people. Really, really nice. Very nice indeed. Okay, here we go, people. So this is in no particular order, and it just as they popped into my head. Well, no particular order-ish. There was a few things that popped in a different. I just sort of grouped them together because I thought they might be more relevant to each other, and not necessarily exclusives. We're talking here. We're talking about just general things I thought might show up. So first and foremost, well, not foremost, but first, I think we've hit a point now where we are absolutely going to start hearing something about Gears of War. We have not had any Gears of War news that I'm aware of since... Well, they did Tactics, which, to be fair to Tactics, is a really good game. But they did Gears 5. I mean, that was a last-gen game, and it's got to be... I mean, how many years has that been? And now they did touch that game up, thank you, for this gen. So it now plays at super smooth 60, and I think probably does 120 if you've got the right TV. And it does look absolutely superb. And I think they touched up 4 as well as 5. So they have done a little bit of work on the ones that were already there. But we've not heard any news about what's happening. But now the guy that made Gears 5, and he might have made Gears 4 as well, but the main guy for those games has now moved on to something else. He's at a different studio. He doesn't work for Microsoft anymore. He's somewhere else, I think. I heard him. I watched an interview with him about. So I can't remember for the life of me how I ended up on that interview. But he's on something brand spanking new now. So, and he's the one that introduced. If you've not played Gears 5, he introduced choices in that game that determined that the story could be different. Effectively, you have to basically pick who lives and who dies in a key moment in the game. And I mean, it was a bit of a head scratcher for a game like that. I was kind of like, why would you? Because there is nothing else in those games that suggests that that would work. It's not like BioShock, where it is effectively an RPG where you've got choices throughout the game and that they'll always impact what happens next. I mean, it's nothing like that. It was literally like, so I've no idea what's going to happen, because he then moved on, and whoever's now running it has now got to pick that up and do something with it, because it means the game that comes after is going to be different depending on who you saved. So I have to admit, I got a lot of fun out of 4 and 5. There was bits of 4. I don't think 5 had the mechs in it again. But 4 sort of starts off where you're fighting machines rather than the Locust and all that. And it didn't really work for me. It wasn't. It just, I don't know, it just didn't fit. But the minute it got into the Locust stuff, I got quite into it. And it was Marcus's son and everything kind of was flowing. And then by the time we hit 2, and don't get me wrong, anyone who watches my channel knows that I nearly always in RPGs design a female character and go with female characters. I generally like the female voice actors better than the men. And I've always said that if I'm going to watch somebody's arse run around a screen for hundreds of hours, I'd rather it was a female one than a male one. So logic, people. For all those people that say, why are you playing as a girl? It's like, well, for fuck's sake, do you not play Tomb Raider? Like, you know what I mean? Does that mean if you had the option, you'd turn Lara into a bloke? Anyway, I digress. So it kind of bugged me a little bit that when we got to 5, somebody at some point said, right, we need to have a female lead. And then suddenly Marcus's son became a sidekick and a part character. And it was like, well, this now doesn't feel like a flow at all. It just feels like you shoehorned the girl into the main lead because you felt like it was the right time to do it, rather than staying faithful to what your original cause was. It just didn't feel right the way that they did it. I felt like if you were going to change it, if you were going to make it a female lead, then fucking start and make it Marcus's daughter rather than Marcus's son. Do it from 4 and make it that way. Don't suddenly change what you're doing when it comes to 5 when we've already got a groove on with 4. And anyway, I just didn't feel like the flow was right story-wise. All just kind of felt a little bit off. But they were really fun games to play. Being back in those worlds was great. And there were some really, really cool moments in those games throughout. They opened it up a bit as well, where you're on the sort of snow. It's got a sail on it, and you're sort of skimming across the ice and all that. So you can sort of travel around this open area, which was actually, there was a bit of me at the time that was like, yeah, did I want that or did I not? And then by the end I thought, why not? You know, it gave you places, made it a bit more interesting, gave you things to discover. And then you could see exactly where you needed to go. And it was basically just, it wasn't that open. And it was, if you had a thorough look around, it was quite hard to miss stuff. So in the end thought, yeah, that was quite a good idea. But I feel like I kind of like linear games being linear games. And I don't think every game needs to be opened up. I'm more than happy, like, for them to keep it linear, but just make more linear areas rather than me sailing. I mean, it was fun sailing around on this thing for a little bit, but I didn't need it. I would have been more than happy just having a linear game. I didn't need it opened up. And I felt the same way about Uncharted 4. I didn't need Uncharted 4 to be as open as it got. I feel like that game was kind of fine just being a linear. I mean, if anything, I got a bit bored wandering around in Uncharted 4. It's only so much prettiness you can take in, and it's just like, right, come on, I just want to get on with the story now. So it's a bit different with like The Last of Us. That's kind of different because sort of searching and building and, you know, doing stuff with your weapons and all that kind of has RPG elements to it. So I kind of feel like I would have liked The Last of Us to be a little bit more open, but not necessarily Uncharted 4, which it did do in The Last of Us 2, to be fair. Part 2. Never forget the part, people. So anyway, I think it's about time that we do hear what's happening with Gears. I feel like the Xbox world is ready for Gears to make a return. We've not really had a game like that. Halo didn't land and hit as well as they wanted it to. So I feel like one of their big franchises, it's time for them to bring it back. For me, I don't know if they'd get away with not seeing that story through now, but I'd be really tempted if I was them to just be either rebooting it entirely or just start a whole new story. Kind of, I don't know, you could even forget those two happened, really, can you? But there's a part of me that thinks that the choice thing didn't work. That just wasn't required and didn't need to be there. And it just makes hard work of the next game. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. But for me, it's almost a franchise that's just gagging on being rebooted, or not necessarily with the same characters, but just do something fresh in that universe with brand new characters from this, and try and find a new set of characters that were as instantly good as Marcus and his mate that I'm now forgetting. So Marcus and Dom. And just work around brand new characters. I feel like it's almost a fear to step away from the characters that were so popular and just go fresh with something new. But if you were making a new franchise, you would, you could always have some Easter eggs in there. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be their son, doesn't have to be family members. There are other people that can save the universe, people, or save the galaxy, or save the world, Anyway, yeah, Gears of War. I'm expecting something to come out of this showcase that mentions Gears of War somehow, even if it's just a loose, we're on with it. And this is what we're doing. Is it Gears 6 or is it a whole new thing or what? So it'll be interesting to see. I also feel like if they are going to push it, that they might have something up their sleeve like a Gears 1, 2, 3 and the one that was sort of span off from those as well, sort of in a box set remastered or something like that, where you can get your teeth back into it while you wait for the new Gears games coming out. So that'll be interesting if they do something like that. I feel like the upgrades they did for the 4 and 5 were they were already new gen updates, really. I feel like, maybe not. So maybe there's more they could do with those. But anyway, I feel like there'll be something to do with those original 3, certainly. That spin-off one, I'm trying to remember the name of it now. The blonde guy is the lead, isn't it? What was that called? Gears of War... Judgment. Was it Judgment? I feel like it was Judgment. Possibly. Anyway, you guys will tell me in the comments below if I've got that wrong. But yeah, so yeah, I'd be really excited to see some Gears come my way. I mean, I know my channel is more about RPGs and stuff, but there's certain action games that I just love getting my teeth into, and Gears of War was one of them. I just love that. I've got great memories of, like, when I was moved down here and Aaron Brew was still up in Edinburgh. That's how we spent our time together, my son. Getting loads of time together playing Gears of War and stuff, rather than just sitting on the phone chatting. We could just sit and game, and Gears of War was great because it was co-op. So we did loads of that. I burnt out. Certainly one got the red ring of death and had to buy another one. I ended up with a black one, I think, in the end, a pro, which they never got the black ring. The pros, they had a different board, didn't they? But anyway, yeah, I'm fully expecting something about Gears of War to be mentioned at some point soon. It's been a really, really long time since we've seen anything about Gears of War mentioned, so I've got a feeling that that's obviously a prediction. I've not seen anything about it anywhere else. What else have we got, people? Moving on to a non-first party, we've got we know Dragon Age. Well, it was called Dragon Age Dreadwolf, and this week they announced that they've changed the name of it to Dragon Age the Veilguard, which, I don't know, Dreadwolf kind of... I don't know whether it's because Dreadwolf was already in our heads for so long. I feel like Dreadwolf sounded a bit better, but anyway, I feel like Dragon Age the Veilguard's almost like Inquisition. It's kind of another title with a group of people in it or something, you know what I mean? It just sounds like another kind of one of them. So... yeah, I mean, in the end, the name doesn't really matter, and I'm curious as to whether the story has changed, and that's why they've changed it from Dreadwolf to the Veilguard. So it might be some more depth to the fact it's called the Veilguard than it was just Dreadwolf. So I'm going to be super interested. It does seem to carry on from the after effects of Dragon Age Inquisition. It's not like it's in 50, 100 years after that's happened, I don't think. For everything we've been reading, it all kind of feeds on from the things that we found out about a certain character in that game at the end, and certainly in the DLC. I don't think I ever played the DLC, but certainly there was stuff we found out in the DLC about a character in that game, and that leads on into this, or so we were told a while back. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. Fully expecting to see that pitch up and have gameplay footage. I never watched the Game Awards, so I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I would have heard something or seen something if there was footage about that had been shown already. So I feel like that might be a place where they first show off the Veilguard, Dragon Age Veilguard, and they need a win, that studio. Fucking hellfire. I mean, they've gone from Mass Effect Andromeda, which was a massive, well, at launch it was a massive letdown for people. It just didn't hit home at all. And to be fair to the game, there was some good stuff in the game. I played the opener, excuse me, people, and I found it really enjoyable. I was having a really good time with it. The gameplay was great. And then I got to the first planet, and I just got bored really, really quickly. So I don't know, maybe I should have stuck with it a bit longer, but there was all sorts of technical problems with it. I think there was all sorts of complaints about the animations of the faces and all that sort of stuff. It just wasn't sort of up to scratch of what people expected by those sort of games to be. I mean, Mass Effect at that point, Mass Effect had kind of hit home with people on every version of 1, 2 and 3. Everyone's kind of got their favourite. 3 got a lot of stick because it didn't do enough with the choices that people had made. So it's never been like a smooth sailing for the Mass Effect trilogy. But those were beloved characters, beloved universe, beloved story. Whether you like the endings or not, people still love that trilogy. Mass Effect Andromeda came along, whole new set of characters, whole new unit, well, galaxy or wherever it is they were. And it just didn't hit home. So for whatever reasons, there are people that do say they really enjoyed it and they don't understand why it got such a hard time. And I probably tend to agree with them so far as I just got bored with it and I didn't stick with it. Maybe one day I'll go back to it and see if I can play it again, but I just got a bit bored with it. If anything, I think the Mass Effect trilogy that they brought out has kind of helped steer them and push them on and give them money to keep. Because they had Andromeda, which was a massive flop. Then they had Anthem, which was a massive flop, which was the multiplayer one that didn't happen. And now they've got Dragon Age coming out, which has to hit home. It has to be a success, really. That studio needs a massive win now. I'm saying that studio, I don't know how BioWare's divided up. I always got the impression that the people doing the Dragon Age stuff were not the same people that were doing the Mass Effect stuff. Because Dragon Age Inquisition was a huge success, massive success. I'm almost positive that it was different teams. But as a company, BioWare needs to win. Because they've now had... Inquisition was the last big hitter they had, the big winner. So it's going to be interesting to see it. I'm really hoping that we get to see some footage of it at the showcase tomorrow. If not, I mean, I don't know. So I can almost guarantee that we get a bloody trailer that's like a movie clip rather than showing us the action. But I hope we get to see something that shows us a bit of battle action. It'd be superb. So I'm actually really excited about Dragon Age stuff. There's not really there's not a bad Dragon Age game really. 2 got a hard time because you were kind of confined to the city, but when I finally played, that's a playthrough I really wanted to get back to as well. When I finally played it, when it was sort of Dragon Age 1 and 2, or Origins and 2, were back compatted on the Xbox, and they got FPS boost, if I remember rightly, and they just played superbly, and all the tearing in the city that I had problems with when I tried to play 2 in the first place. I got really into 2 actually at that Let's Play, and I think it's still sat. My save is still at the same point. So and then Inquisition comes along, and that was great. So there's not really been a bad Dragon Age game. So fingers crossed they keep that up. So we'll see if that shows up. Mass Effect is doubtful because I can't imagine they're wanting to push Dragon Age and Mass Effect at the same time. They've already told us Mass Effect's in the works. We don't know if it's going to take the form of Mass Effect 4 or 5 or reboot, or well, we're not really sure. I don't think. Did we get the impression that Shepard was coming back? I feel like that was a thing. But anyway, we know they're on with Mass Effect, but it was like they were just getting going when we saw that maybe a year or 2 ago, and I can't see them wanting to punt anything to do with Mass Effect at the same time Dragon Age is going on. If this is the point where they've decided the name of Dragon Age of the Veilguard, they're ready to show us something. They're going to put everything behind that to make that a success, I'm sure. So I don't think we'll see anything about Mass Effect 5 or whatever it's going to be called at the moment. Avowed is a fall 2024 title. There's absolutely going to be some Avowed shown. I cannot imagine for the life of me they're not going to show some Avowed. You know, we're months away from that now. So where are we? Hit June, so you've got July, August, September, October, and then, so what, 4 months? We're 4 months away, people, from probably a launch of Avowed. So that is going to have to be getting shown off. And I was really, the footage we saw from that last time, because when they first showed footage off, people were having a bit of a problem with it. I didn't. And then when we saw the footage in the last show off that they did, I was really impressed with it. It looked really, really good. Hey, Maxie, hey, you coming up? There he is. I was wondering if he was going to make an appearance, and you can see him properly now. I think the last time I did a vlog, he was so small he didn't quite show up on the camera. Hey, buddy. Yeah, there he is. He's a good lad, he really is. So, it's throwing me off now, people. Yes, Avowed. So, I'm super excited for that game. RPGs, we all know it's kind of my bag, baby. So, really, really looking forward to that. And I'm super excited to see more of it. I think last time we got a real selection of action clips from it. So, there's a little part of me that doesn't want to see too much of it. I mean, just something that shows as part of a quest line or something, maybe. But I don't want them to. I don't want them to show us too much, because I want some of it to be new and exciting when you come across it when it comes out. Super excited for that. If that doesn't show up, I'll be super, super surprised. So Avowed, without any doubt, has got to be there. Fable, well, some places you look are going to call it Fable 4. When they actually showed us the trailer for that, with Richard, guy from IT Crowd, Adewadi, Richard Adewadi, or I can never say his name properly, but he was in it as a giant and stuff. The vibe and everything looked great. Now I'm going to say we didn't see any gameplay footage. I'm almost sure we didn't see gameplay footage, but anyway, there's a lot more that can be shown us of that. That doesn't have a release date though, I'm pretty sure. If it does, it's simply a 2025. But I'd love to see some footage of gameplay of Fable. It would be fantastic. Even showing us how the mechanics of that game work. Because Fable always had quirks in it. Not so much the third one, but the two that were... the 1 and 2, you had that thing where if you ate too much, you got fat. If you ate too little, you got too thin. There was all sorts of little things you did in there that sort of impacted your life and living in the little towns and stuff. And this is a lot. I'm not going to go back into the fact that 3 is my favourite, and I stand alone really in that. But I think most people's favourite's probably 2. But they're great, great games, and I just love those worlds of Albion. I just adore them, and I love the vibe. I hope this is obviously the first of them we're getting that wasn't made by Lionhead Studios because they closed it down. It's being made by the Forza Motorsport guys, isn't it? All their studios, as I remember. So I'd be very surprised if it doesn't hit home to some level. But I think we have heard stories going on where they've kind of got so far, they've gone back and they've started again, and you kind of get the impression that it's not been the smoothest of development cycles that they've been having. But I'd be super surprised, considering they showed us that trailer, which was not, I think, the last showcase. I'd be very surprised if we don't see something more from that, because they're obviously in a place where they're ready to start pushing the vibe of that game. So I'd be super excited to see more of that. Well, I'd be very surprised if we don't hear something about what Bethesda are doing now that Starfield's out there. Starfield didn't hit home the way that they wanted it to. I'm not surprised, because everything I saw in the run-up to that game just didn't... I've not touched that game, and nothing about it excites me about playing it. It was kind of like... I mean, I know some people will love that sort of thing, but for me, it just felt like... It just looked dull. Like it was like space, but without aliens, sort of thing. space but without anything fun in it, you know what I mean? Like just flying to all these planets to mine shit and then fly off to another planet to mine shit, and it just didn't do anything for me. Like, you know, in Mass Effect you've got all these different races you're interacting with, all these different stories and background stories of all these races, and all these, like, they just didn't, like, Starfield didn't seem to have any of that going on. I mean, it might do, but nothing in the trailers said anything about it. The only alien you see is some little creatures that are on the planet that start attacking you. So I don't, there's nothing really, and then it comes out and it's not even got a 60 FPS mode, and it's like, I mean, it just, it didn't, and even if you liked Starfield, it still didn't hit home the way that Fallout and Skyrim and Elder Scrolls do. Those are their two big hitters. So it's not landed. I don't think we'll ever see a Starfield 2. I think they've realised that it just didn't hit home. And also, I think to some degree, I think they missed the boat a fair bit because of No Man's Sky. I know it's a very different looking game, but it is in effect the same type of game. And if anything, those guys, No Man's Sky guys, have done it better. And it's a living, breathing thing that continuously gets more content, changing it and giving you more things and making it more fun. That game isn't anything it was when it first launched, and it's still going. And in fact, I think last year it won Game of some big award because it was just still pushing so much content into it. People's Choice or something, I think it was. It was just ridiculous. So they've done a fantastic job. And I think Starfield, to some degree, they must have been so far into it. It was like, oh, fuck me, right, No Man's Sky's come out and we're now on with this. We're not going to have ours ready for fucking 6 years. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't now that you're already into it. So I feel like it was already done and done better to some degree. But anyway, I feel like we might hear something about what they're doing next, and it has to. Well, there was already a hint that Elder Scrolls 6 was obviously going to happen, but they didn't show us anything. It just was a big title that came up in the music and stuff. So I feel like we'll get some form of update as to they are now on with either Elder Scrolls 6 or Fallout 5, or two teams doing both. And here's the thing, right? There was a lot of negativity about the fact that they were closing studios down. They shut down the studio that makes Evil Within, Tango Gameworks or whatever they were called. They shut down Hi-Fi Rush Studio. No, that was the same studio. It was the other studio they shut down. They shut down another one anyway. And there was a bit of noise about it. But I remember reading sort of what they were saying and some interview stuff. And I kind of get it. I mean, it's always sad when they shut studios down, but Microsoft are clearly, now that they've spent all of this billions of money, they're now clearly deciding, like, these are the franchises that are going to make us money. And we're going to have a few trimmings that are going to be unique and not maybe sell so many, but we need to have those in the mix. But really, who was gasping for an Evil Within 3? I mean, I don't know anyone I've not had a conversation with anyone who can't wait for an Evil Within 3. And who was gasping for a Hi-Fi Rush 2? I mean, all right, it was a bit of a hit when it came out and everything. That's great, but you know, these aren't things that are going to make or break what they're doing. And if they can take that money or those devs or those resources and put them into main Bethesda studio, so that they've got two teams and they've got a team working on Fallout 4 at the same time or Fallout 5 at the same time they've got a team working on Elder Scrolls 6, then all of a sudden you've got two massive franchises that are both on a life cycle of 5 years, rather than a 5-year life cycle for Elder Scrolls 6, and we've got to wait 10 years before we see Fallout 5. So I can understand why they might be rethinking their resources like that, because why would you try and keep certain studios open to do those little games, or the ones that are fringe games, and not then have the money to have two teams that are working on both Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6 at the same time? I don't know if that is what they're doing, but I suspect from what I'm reading from those interviews with them, that sounds like what their point is. Their point is, we need to home in on the titles that we think are going to be the ones that are going to take us forward. And I'm hoping, with that being the case, that we might hear something about both of these franchises sooner rather than later. And I certainly would think that we'd hear about Elder Scrolls 6 before Fallout 5, because it's been longer. Obviously, Skyrim was the last one we got, and that's 2 gens ago. Fallout 4 was last gen. So if that cycle continues, obviously it's Elder Scrolls 6. But we'll see what comes of it. I mean, obviously, they're riding on a high as well because they've now got the new gen update for Fallout 4 because of this, and in tandem with the TV show hitting as well. So it's all been a massive success, that whole thing. But I wouldn't be surprised if we were to see Fallout 5 logo come up like they did with the Elder Scrolls 6 one. But who knows? Who knows? But it'd be nice to see something from either of them. But I'd be very excited if they've suddenly got now 2 teams. But the only downside to that is that Todd Howard kind of directs those ones, doesn't he? So would he direct 2 of those major franchises at the same time? I suppose as an overseer he could. Overseer. See what I did there, people? As an overseer? No, thank you. You're welcome. What else we got? Indiana Jones. Well, that's definitely going to be shown. That's a 2024 launch as well. I mean, everything about that game looks like great fun. For me, I kind of wish it was just third person, but I understand why they've done it the way they've done it. The studio making it is a first person studio. They've given it a mix of first person and third person. I guess until you get your hands on it, you'll not really know as to whether or not you'd prefer it the other way around. But if you're looking at Wolfenstein as an example, those games are fucking super fun. So I'm not going to judge the gameplay until I actually see some more of it, and they did show a fair bit of it last time, to be fair, but I'm not going to judge it until I've actually sat and played it. But it looks super fun. The only downside is, of course, it's not Harrison Ford voice, it's Troy Baker, and he was doing a decent enough Harrison Ford impression, I suppose. So it is, you know, I feel like with Troy now, and he's a great actor, don't get me wrong, but he voices so many games now that I can hear that it's him almost immediately. When they showed that clip, it was like, that's Troy Baker, it sounds like Troy Baker, and then sure enough it was. He's just in so much. The only voice that doesn't sound like Troy Baker is when he's doing Joel. The rest of the time I can hear it there. You know, it doesn't make it. I mean, it doesn't make it a bad thing. It's just that when you're trying to engross yourself in something, and all you can hear is the same voice, it just starts niggling at your ear a little bit. It's like there must be other actors out there thinking, for fuck's sake, what have I got to do to get a bloody job around here? You know what I mean? I mean, all the best to him. I mean, he's good at what he does, but I feel like it's just a saturation of it, really. I mean, Nolan North was a little bit different because the variety of voices he could actually do was fantastic. But there was also a bit of a saturation of him at one point, but not to the extent of Troy. Anyway, I'm not having a go at Troy as such. I just feel like he's in a huge amount of stuff where you could have other people just for a bit of variety, you know. I mean, you could argue the same thing with Laura Bailey, but I love Laura Bailey. She's fantastic. And again, she's got such diversity to her voice. And she does the humour stuff so well as well. But yeah, anyway, I digress, people. But yeah, Indiana Jones, definitely going to be getting more show off of that because that is a 2024 landing title. So like Avowed, without any shadow of a doubt, that game's going to be there. They're going to be punting that. State of Decay 3, people. We've not heard anything about that since they showed that one movie type trailer where it was in a snowy forest, a deer. I think the deer turned into a bloody zombie or something. I can't remember now. But they were basically saying State of Decay 3 is on the way or in development. For my liking, and I've talked about this before, I think, I really would like State of Decay to get to the level of visuals that The Last of Us has got, for example, or Days Gone or something like that. Because if you can drag the visuals into that level of fidelity and looking good, then I think you've got a proper franchise on your hands, rather than... Because that game started as... I am going to say indie game, because I'm almost positive the first one wasn't a Microsoft studio, was it? They bought them, didn't they? So it was kind of one of those titles that was kind of an unsuspected hit. And I don't even think it was on disc. I think it was a digital only. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But the second one's on disc, because I've got it. But yeah, I mean, they are really good games. The second one's really good fun. For me, the only thing I don't like about those games is because I get that they're based around survival and keeping your camps packed with goods and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not sure those sort of games are for me. The more I played them, the more I thought, oh, it just feels like work now. It's a bit like survival games. Like, you have not eaten enough, you have not drank enough. I feel like I can't be doing with it. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see. But I'd love to see that franchise do well, though, because I mean, I did get some fun out of the second one. I mean, I played the first one a fair bit. I didn't finish it though, I don't think. And then I played the second one for a fair bit as well. I put quite a lot of hours in, and then I just got bored trying to keep my camps sort of up to date with foods and people and all that sort of stuff. So it's just kind of your vibe, or it's not. But it's a great zombie franchise, which I just hope they can drag it up to the level of a AAA rather than it still sat there at that sort of visual level of where they started. I mean, the second game feels like the first game, just that you've got, I think, did they not add co-op and stuff like that into it, which you couldn't do in the first one? And obviously a bigger world and stuff. But they still look good, but they're just not. They're not. You wouldn't look at them and say that's a AAA title, for example. But anyway, fully expecting to hear more about State of Play. Whether we'd hear it at State of Decay, I should say. Whether we'll see that now, I don't know. It's a bit of a prediction. But State of Decay 3, not heard about it for a while. Be a good time to just show something off of it. Outer Worlds 2, we know it's being made, I think, at this point. We haven't seen anything to do with it that I can remember, anyway. I'm just not sure. That's another one that feels like it's a bit of a way off yet, because I'm pretty sure it's... Is that not the same studio that do... I'm going to get my studios mixed up. I'm going to say that, are they not the same studio that do Avowed? Not sure. I can't remember now. But I feel like it's something that we're definitely going to see something of in the not too distant future, because it seems like ages ago that they said that 2 was in the works. So it's something that could drop, but I'm doubtful that it will, because I feel like it's still a ways off, and I feel like that studio is making either Avowed or something else, or have made something else. I'm forgetting what it is. But it's out there. We know it's being made, and if we don't hear something tomorrow, we'll be hearing about it probably at the next one. Perfect Dark reboot again. I've heard stories about this that the development of it has not gone well, and they've kind of had to restart it over and over again. And I feel like the people that were initial people that were put together for that project. Now, I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments below if I'm getting them mixed up. But I feel like the people that started creating that game kind of went. They left. And then it kind of all started all over again. So it feels like a really long time since they said they were rebooting Perfect Dark. However, because of what's been going on with the development, it's possible we might not see anything yet. But it's been a long time. And it feels like it might be time to just at least update people on where it is in that life cycle and how far away it might be, sort of thing, because it's a big franchise from back in the day. Stalker 2 is out on September 5th, so I'm fully expecting to see something to do with Stalker 2. That's months away, people. What we've seen of it looks amazing. I mean, visually it looks stunning. It's got the same sort of vibes as the other games that I'm now forgetting. I'm not going to remember them now. Metro. It's got the same vibe as Metro, isn't it? It's got that sort of feel to it, where it's that Fallout world of Chernobyl or whatever it is, and all sorts of creatures and shit flying around. But it does look fantastic. Whether or not it's something I'm going to be that bothered about, I'm not sure. But it does look fantastic as an action game. So I'm fully expecting Stalker 2 to pitch up, as it's out on September 5th of this year. Star Wars Outlaws. If that doesn't show up, I'll be gobsmacked, people, because that is out in August. So I feel like EA are going to be wanting to push that via the Xbox showcase, unless EA are simply going to have their own showcase. But I feel like that'll make an appearance, showing off on the Xbox Series X, without any shadow of a doubt. We'll see some of that. Again, I want to be excited for that game, but at the moment, I feel like it's going to be a similar game to Jedi Fallen Order, but you're not a Jedi, you've just got a blaster, and I'm not sure that's going to be enough to keep me engrossed. I'm not sure. When I see the main character and what have you, mind you, I suppose I felt the same way about the character of Jedi Fallen Order, Cal. I didn't take to him straight away either. And I'm not sure about the female character in the new one, whose name I'm forgetting either. But it could be once I start playing it, I kind of get into the vibe of all of that. But I don't know, like, it's the sort of thing that Ubisoft, I'm not sure they'll hit home with it or not. But I'm hoping they do, because it would be good to have a game like that. But that isn't a Jedi game, but in that Star Wars universe. To some degree, if anything, I hope it's darker than it looks or appears at the moment. And I like the Star Wars stuff that's got a bit of a gritty edge to it, and the Jedi Fallen Order stuff has had, or Jedi Survivor stuff, has had a gritty edge to what's been going on in those worlds. So I am half excited for it, but until I actually see more gameplay and more story of that game and how it kind of pans out, I'm not sure. I don't feel like it's going to be a a game one purchase for me, people. Is that Pride Month sticking in my head there? Was it? What's that about? But yeah, it will make an appearance. I'm almost positive of it. Not sure we'll hear. I feel like we're not going to hear about Gears and Halo at the same drop, because they're two franchises, that stalwart franchises like that. I feel like Halo needs some sort of thing to say this is what we're doing now with Halo, because Infinite didn't land as well as they wanted it to. There is a good multiplayer base to it. I don't think the campaign was bad or anything. I still haven't played through it yet, but I feel like it didn't hit home the way they wanted it to. And again, for me, the age of those games is so distant now that is begging for a reboot. Absolutely begging for it. And I know you've got the Master Chief Collection, but if you play Halo 1, it just, and 2 for that matter, they really don't hold up anymore. I mean, they're so old. I mean, I would be so... if you look at how much remakes have done, how well they've done, admittedly, we know there's not going to be a Dead Space 2 remake now, because Dead Space 1 remake didn't sell enough copies, but that's kind of horror, and that's kind of a different bag. I think if you remade Halo from the beginning, you would capture the hearts of all the young gamers out there, which is what we all were when Halo was first out. So I think at this point, like, young people have no investment in Halo or Master Chief or that universe. It's like young folk are just like, well, what the fuck's that? I'm going to play COD. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing dragging them into that world. If you start it all over again and say, we're rebooting it, Halo from the beginning, here's the story of Master Chief, and do what you will with it. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. I mean, the Resident Evil ones haven't been exactly the same. The Final Fantasy remakes haven't been exactly the same. So you can do what you will with it. Change the story up, mix it up. I mean, to be fair to what 343 have done, they haven't hit home with these games, but the action in it, the actual action in it, and the gameplay has been great, as far as I'm concerned. I know Halo 4, the first one that they made, which was still on the 360, I remember thinking, fuck me, how did they make that look so good? I thought they'd creamed all they could out of these consoles, and it looked amazing. And then after that, it just kind of all went a bit downhill. But it'd be interesting to see what... I mean, it's begging for a reboot, people. It's begging for it. Just get Master Chief started all over again. Mix up the story a little bit if you want to do a bit more with it. And just start again. And make it look amazing. You know, just do it. At this point, I just don't see what the point is of trying to make a Halo 6 when you're clearly not grabbing in the younger audiences, because they're not invested in that franchise anymore. So, I mean, there's a big argument that could say the same for Gears, really. You know, just start them again, because those are going way back to the 360 launches and everything else. Well, it wasn't a launch title, was it? Gears came a bit later, but it was a 360 early release. Anyway, I doubt we'll hear from Halo, but we might, people. We might. It'd be nice to know what's coming next for Master Chief, or if it's a new beginning. A Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree. I think we're definitely going to see something of that, because it's about to launch, isn't it? I mean, I'd be very surprised if there's not a very quick advert for Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC, because that is literally on the doorsteps, just weeks away, I think. So if we don't see that, I'll be very surprised. Assassin's Creed Shadows, I feel like that's definitely going to be shown somehow. There's always been a good bond with Xbox and EA, sort of allowing EA to show stuff at Xbox showcases and stuff. So I feel like we'll get a few EA games. I'd be very surprised if I don't see something about Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is effectively Assassin's Creed Ghost of Tsushima, isn't it? Assassin's Creed of Tsushima, or Ghosts of Assassin's Creed. It's all set in Japan, people, is what I'm getting at. I've not seen the trailer for it, I don't think. So maybe I'll have dug it up and found something to show you behind me if I've managed to find something while I've been chatting away. I'm a massive fan of the earlier Assassin's Creeds, especially the first one. And there's been a few on the way that have kind of hooked me in. But I think they kind of lost what they were with the mystery of it all. And they've just kind of become this individual. Now it's Valhalla, now it's Japan, now it's Egypt, now it's Greece. It's like, is there anything actually in the underbelly of linking these stories together anymore, like there was back in the day? I don't think there is. You know, like the Apple, and you know, I mean, the Ezio story was like 3-4 games long, and it all kind of intertwined as to what was going on between what was happening now and what was happening in the past and everything else. But I don't think I'm not sure any of that stuff is even involved in it anymore. Where are we? A Black Myth Wukong may not be shown off now because apparently it's not coming to Xbox at launch. I saw something from, I think it was IGN or somewhere, some news article today or yesterday, and I'm forgetting it already, but I'm pretty sure it was Black Myth Wukong that was supposed to be coming to all platforms, and suddenly it's now launching at the date they've given. It's launching on PlayStation and PC, is it? Anyway, the long and the short of it is, I think it's because the S is holding it back again. So it would be able to launch on the X, but it's not ready for the S. And that seems to be a to-do, which we already had with Baldur's Gate. And eventually they caved in and said, just release it on the X, didn't they? I think. And then eventually the S would come and get it later. But Microsoft is so reluctant to do it because it just makes the S look like it's not up to the job. But I don't know what the answer is to the S, because if it's going to continually hold back titles like that, I mean, fucking hell, that's a huge title for people. That game looks incredible. And then you suddenly got all the PlayStation players playing it on day one, and your Series X players that have played through the nose for the most powerful console have got to wait simply because the S, cheaper version, can't do it. I mean, it's just not great, is it? It's not good at all. Just release it for the X and tell the S players it will come later. What is the problem with that? Don't get it. If anything, you're just pissing off all of your customers instead of only pissing off half of them. You know what I mean? There's no logic to it. It doesn't make any sense to me. So Black Myth Wukong, I suspect, will not be shown off if that's the case. And finally, on my list of what might be shown people is Grand Theft Auto 6, which I'd be very surprised at this point if there's any major showcases going on like this one where they don't show GTA 6. Now that we know that it's coming next year, and it's going to be like the biggest game ever to hit the planet, probably ever. Not going to be for me, but I'm not really into those sort of things. I've talked about it 100 times, and I like some of that style of game, and the game that hit home for me was Sleeping Dogs. And I loved it, but I tried GTA several times and just couldn't get into it. I always love the openers and stuff, but then when it opens up, it's just kind of like, I don't know, can't be bothered. I don't know, something just doesn't click for me. I think way back in the day, it was the Vice City one that clicked with me a little bit, because it was all set in the 80s and the music and the radio, and but I never finished the game. It was only a case of like, I just like driving around the cars, listening to the radio, like remembering the good old days, sort of. while I shoot hookers in the head and take the money, and it's good old family stuff, people, is what it is. Oh my lord, people, how did we come to it? How did we come to a game where you're shooting hookers in the head and taking the money and pimping people out and selling drugs, and it's all good, people? It's all fine, isn't it? Well, if you can't do it in a video game, where can you do it, people? Well, there you are, people. Yeah, so I think, I mean, there's no doubt that GTA 6 is going to be absolutely huge, and there's no doubt that probably everyone on the channel, apart from me, is probably excited for it. I know Aaron Brew, my boy, he's excited for it. He plays the online stuff with his mates, even to this day, I think, on and off for the GTA 5, GTA 5, which has had so many incarnations now that it's bordering on Skyrim, you know. I mean, GTA 5, did that not start on 360? I'm almost sure it did, didn't it? So it was souped up for last gen, and now it's been souped up for this gen as well. So I mean, it's about time for GTA 6. They did have Red Dead Redemption 2 in the middle, right enough. But there you are, folks. Let me know in the comments below. I don't know why I've gone croaky. It's been a while since I've done one of these, I suppose. Let me know in the comments below, people, if you agree or disagree with any of the things I'm saying is going to show up, or have I not mentioned something that you are absolutely positive will show up. Let me know in the comments below, people. And if you're watching it after June the 9th, 6 PM in BST time, let me know how wrong I was. But I'm expecting big things from this showcase, people. This is the one that they need to nail now, because, as I said at the beginning, Sony don't have much to be shouting about at the minute. So if they've got all of these titles and they're almost all ready to drop, fucking throw it in their faces. This is the time to do it. This is the time to do it, people. Get on with it. It's your time, Big Phil. It's your time. Come on. Let's have it. Let's have it. Hit a home run with it. Come on. Put it to bed. Let's have it. Come on. Bring these games home. There's so many titles ready to land, people. It is. The time has finally come. Where are we? 4 years into the cycle. Well, they launched in 2020. So yeah, we're 4 years into this life cycle. And they're all about to just drop over this year and next year. So their time is finally coming. I can feel it. It's taken a while, but I can feel it. I just hope that those titles land well and that they are built well, and they clearly haven't rushed the studios, so we just hope that all of these titles are going to be really good games and not just titles for the sake of titles. But this is the one, people. I feel like this is the one they can really make a big impact with. So let's see how we get on tomorrow, people, and then maybe we'll do another vlog after that and see what's what. Well, there you are, people. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you once again in this vlog of mine, and I shall catch you all in the next one. Take it easy, folks. Bye.